Hey everybody, welcome to Focus Garage. In this episode, we're going to be telling you what it takes to go big turbo with your Focus ST. Before we lead into this, I kind of want to explain and say, at what point do you decide that you want to go big turbo with a car? With any car, it's when you don't have enough power. You're looking to make more power. Where that limit is with the Focus ST, it's going to be once you have about 260, 270-ish horsepower, and around
on a 93 octane.
On 93 octane,
yeah.
And maybe around 350-ish pound-feet of torque. Once you hit those levels, that's pretty much the limit of what you can do with the stock turbo. The KO3 is a very small turbo, so it's good at spooling early and making a lot of torque down low, but where you learn this turbo fails is at the upper RPMs. It kind of tapers down by the higher RPMs.
Around like 5,000 RPM, you fall and face something because you're already spooled up, and then your turbo is like overworking itself. So at that point, you're not making power actually.
Exactly. So one of the benefits of going with a bigger turbo is the car's power will be more linear. You won't have that big torque punch down low. It'll be more smooth, but on the flip side of that, you'll also still be making power when you're close to redline and ready to ship. So what we want to tell you is, what do you need to have on your car in order to take this step and go big turbo? Do you want to start off and kind of say what the groundwork looks like for something like that?
Yeah, we can cover. This will cover kind of like what the full bolt-on would look like, and then the big turbo.
Yeah.
So like, first of all, the one thing you want to do is, even if you're not tuning the car, intercooler. Intercooler is the weakest point in that car, and it heat soaks all the time. After like the second run or something like that, heat soaks, and it's not efficient enough, and you're losing power, And if you're thinking about like what kind of intercooler I want, there are three big companies that I can suggest. One of them is the Depot for best bang for your buck, and then the other one would be Lovell's intercooler. I know you have the Lovell's intercooler, and then the best quality is the CPE. These three, they're proven to be good quality, and they're proven to be work very well with the small turbo and the big turbo as well.
And the best thing is about those intercoolers, because don't get fooled, there's tons of intercooler options for these cars now.
Lot. Yeah.
But a lot of these options are not direct fit. They require drilling into your crash bar, modifying your bumper, stuff like that. These intercoolers that are super effective, the Lovell's, the Depot, and the CPE, they're direct fit. They either bolt right on to the existing holes, or they mount using the plastic tabs in the crash or in the radiator support that are already there. So they're super easy to install, and you're not going to pull your hair out trying to install these things. So that's another reason why we like those three intercoolers right there.
Yeah, usually it takes like half hour to 45 minutes to install an intercooler, and if you're spending more than that, there might be a problem that you should stop and take a look at what you're doing. The other thing is a downpipe.
Mm-hmm.
Downpipe is another thing that you want to free up some spool time, but even downpipe is I would say for the stock turbo is more for sound, I would say.
Get the turbo whistles, some cracks, pops.
Yep. And for the downpipe, I would highly suggest MBRP, Mountain, or Depot, because they retain the stock the mid bracket on the downpipe, so there's not much stress coming from your turbo to the exhaust, or from exhaust to the turbo, where it's like flexing. It's sturdy there. It's not gonna move. These three have the those mid brace, and
a lot of the downpipes that don't, they'll crack in the flex section, because what's happening is they're basically supporting all of their weight at the turbo where the V-band is, and then at the back of the downpipe where it meets the exhaust. So you're getting all this flex in the middle of it, and you risk cracking your downpipe, and that is no good.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Then you're missing.
AFRs will be off. Yeah.
Yep, you're missing all the power as well. And then the main thing is to be able to do anything with the tune is the Cobb AP. Yep. You could go another route. There are HP tuners. There are some other companies.
SCT.
SCT. The most the support is coming from Cobb. Cobb makes a great access port for this car, and you can do a lot of stuff with it, like monitoring your boost levels and a whole bunch of other stuff. You can check a lot of stuff with this.
It's very tuner friendly too. Yeah. So whether you're working with an aftermarket company to tune your car, or if you're self-tuning, the way this Cobb Access Tuner software is set up is very intuitive, and it's very easy and quick to learn this yourself, or even to dabble with it. If you're just changing settings that the tuner already made, it's very user friendly.
Yeah, I highly suggest that you, instead of messing around with other ones, get the Cobb AP, because
all the major tuners use it too.
Yeah, and so this three thing will make your car make the most power. Will make the most power with the full, like basically you're a full bolt on, because you don't need intake, you don't need exhaust, because all those are sufficient enough for the small turbo to make the power, and you're not making much power with the intake and exhaust.
Can I touch on that for 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead.
100 times this comes up every day because I work in this industry. An intake does nothing but add noise on this car. You'll actually lose horsepower on some of them with the metal piping because they heat soak.
Yeah.
An exhaust, like you're saying, it's a small turbo, so anything past the downpipe or catback also is not going to add power. So anytime somebody tries to sell you an intake or a catback to say that you need to be stage 3 or full bolt-on, totally wrong. If you're a stock turbo, you do not need those parts.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to tell you that has been, like, you know, dealing in this sector, like dealing with this car. They're going to tell you all you need is an intercooler and cob AP. That's all you need, actually. And then downpipe might help,
Yeah.
you know, in some cases don't help. Only pick up like 5 horsepower. That's all about the numbers. If you're really all about the number, yeah, you should get it. But other than that, all you need is the intercooler and cob AP to be a full bolt-on. Make the most power you want. So let's talk about the big turbo. We're not going to cover the big turbos. There's a lot of big turbos. There's Garrett and EFRs, and you know, we would make another episode about comparing those. I know Stratify has a great article on the Focus ST forum on their website comparing the turbos.
Pros and cons of each, yeah.
So we're going to talk about what you need for the car to go big turbo. So now you're making power. Now you need intake. Find anything that's out there that it's within your budget. You know, all of them are gonna work the same, but make sure to get the ones that are actually like cylinder going down, not the ones that are like looks like the stock intake.
Anything that tapers down to that small neck that you're talking about, where it goes over the back of the valve cover. What that does is you're gonna have major problems on the intake side when the turbo's trying to suck in air. It can't breathe through that. So if it's a rubber intake there and there's small couplers, it's going to collapse, which you actually experienced yourself.
Yeah, I was having, because I wanted to use a stock intake to look more
sleeper.
Sleepers. You know, and then my tuner said that my intake was collapsing with the silicone, and it was not getting enough air in there. So
round all the way through.
Yeah,
got to be round all the way through.
Yeah, I know. NBRP has a really good one.
Depot again.
Depot has a good one. There are cheap options out there, and they're gonna work the same. And if you really want a nice looking one, CP has great intakes.
Best looking intake for that.
You have that the glass cover on the top, and then like the color matches to your car. It's a very good intake, and then now you're pushing more than 300 wheel horsepower. You need exhaust. You need a 3-inch exhaust to free up some more airflow in that system, and anything you think it sounds good. You know, it's your car. You're gonna daily drive it or whatever. Go out there, go to the meet. You know, if there's
listen to other people's setups, see what their cars sound like.
Yeah, I mean YouTube. You can look it up on YouTube, but it's gonna be.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's not gonna be really same seeing it in real life. So I would highly suggest going into especially if you can take a ride in one person's car. You know, that would tell you what the exhaust really sounds like on a wide open throttle under a load.
Yeah, but definitely once you go big turbo, you do need a different exhaust, because it was fine on the stock exhaust I was fine with the stock turbo with the smaller diameter exhaust, but now that you have that free flow, like you said, you are going to need a bigger diameter exhaust to move that air out of the turbo.
Yeah, theoretically, your stock exhaust should be good to like 350, 300 horsepower crank. We're talking about crank numbers.
Surprise
but after that,
dog in here.
Yeah, after that, you're gonna need to go 3-inch exhaust and free flowing. But so these will make you power, and of course, if you wanna go, there's a threshold around like 330, 350 wheel horsepower, where the stock fueling, if we're talking about 93 octane, stock fueling would be not sufficient enough for the turbo, and the best thing to do is get an auxiliary fuel. I know Stratified has it, throttle body, and they have a intake manifold spacer kind of type. And Speed Performance have a kit as well. You gotta go look out there and find the best for your purposes. And then there's water math injection, which you can use as well, either through your intercooler piping or intake. So
intake spacer, throttle body spacer,
Yeah.
you can run meth that way with it. Now, one thing I do want to touch on with all of that is that any kind of auxiliary fueling or methanol injection is not necessary. It's not a requirement to be big turbo, but it is going to help you get the most out of your car if you are spending that money and going big turbo. Those mods help add fueling to the car because that's your next limiting factor.
Yeah.
You know, when you're stock turbo, the stock turbo is a limiting factor. Once you upgrade, fueling is your next limiting factor. So in order to get more power out of your car before blowing up your internals, you're going to be looking at stuff like auxiliary fueling or aftermarket methanol injection.
Another thing that we forgot to cover is the intake, not intake, but the intercooler hard charge pipes. Our charge pipes are okay for the stock turbo.
More than enough for the stock turbo. That's another thing. Do not upgrade those if you're stock turbo. It's a waste.
They're so, especially the cold one, it's so hard to get in there.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah, so don't even touch those till you go big turbo. And then again, there's a lot of other companies that sells that, and then depending on your turbo setup, if you're going with the Garrett turbo, you're not gonna have a blow pass valve inside the turbo, so you would want to get a blow off valve. And intake hard charge piping is where you would locate those blow off valves to run them through your. The other thing is the sound composer delete. That's where you would be running your pure vacuum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
actually, real quick, let me dial back there real quick. So depending on what kind of turbo you go with, some of them still use the factory style bypass valve right there on the turbo, but like you said, some of the other kits do not, so you'd have to be running your own blow off valve. So that's going to depend, location wise, depending on what turbo setup you have. So definitely figure that out first before you buy the kit, and then realize that you need more stuff. A lot of them work just like stock, but like Onder said, some of them that do not work like stock, go on the charge piping, and you got to run your own vacuum line to it, and that could be just an added expense.
Yeah, and blow-off valve doesn't add any horsepower, so
solely noise.
It's just noise. So we talked about how you're gonna make the power, and there's another side of going big turbo is gonna be putting that power down, and then also a little bit of safety to the engine, where if your wastegate fails or something like that. So Mike, you want to talk about the motor mounts?
Because
you
absolutely.
guys actually make some.
So one of the things you're going to look at, whether you're stock turbo or big turbo, is a rear motor mount. It's a very common mod, a first mod that people do in these cars. And what happens is a stock rear motor mount has a lot of slop and flex in it, so when you're accelerating, it causes wheel hop. The engine and transmission assembly are moving back and forth a lot, and they're bouncing around. The stock motor mount is very sloppy, and that's what you get from that. When you upgrade to an aftermarket motor mount, they usually have some sort of polyurethane bushing, which is a lot dense and more firm than the stock mount. So what that does is it reduces the spinning, or not the spinning, but the movement within the motor there. So that's going to give you less wheel spin, less wheel hop, and it'll even give you smoother shifting because your engine's not hopping around anymore. The downside of that is that there's going to be vibrations now that are being absorbed by that stock motor mount with the big bushing. Now you've got this small bushing, those vibrations are going into your car.
Yeah.
We strongly recommend that if you do go big turbo, at least do a rear motor mount. You could probably go away with the stock motor mount, but you are going to be breaking it. I've actually managed to break my stock motor mount on my stock turbo car just from the aggressive driving I've been doing. So when you go big turbo, it is something that you really should do. They do offer other mounts for these cars as well. There's a passenger side mount and then a trans mount as well. So those mounts can also be upgraded, but depending on how serious you are with the car, you're going to get more added vibrations from those, and it does help immensely. Though I drove your car, you do have all solid mounts, and it's no drama. When you accelerate, the car goes, but it does feel very race car inside of it because you're getting all of the transmission synchro noise and all of that. So that's one thing you do have to look at. At least do a rear motor mount. Possibly look at doing a passenger side mount and a driver side transmission mount if you are going big turbo. Those are other things you're going to have to consider.
Another other thing is the oil catch can. When you're stock turbo, it really depends on person car to car and the way they drive it, because I never had a problem when I was stock turbo with the oil residue around the charge pipes and whatsoever. But once I went big turbo, I had a big amount of kind of like a oily residue around the cold charge pipe and coming from the throttle body. So that's another thing, getting a oil catch can. Make sure you get the, depends on company to company, they call it stage 1, stage 2. Make sure the one that it's right behind, it goes right behind the intake manifold.
Your PCV side.
Yep, PCV.
That's the high pressure side. Yeah.
So at least you get change that to help the car out a little bit, less sludge in the engine, and then better working components. So you're not risking valve problems, whatever.
Yep.
And finally would be
the safety you talked about.
Yeah, the Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel is one of the things that you can do. It doesn't really do much on the stock turbo, but it really helps on the big turbo. There's no gains of it from it, like horsepower wise. What it does is it's kind of like a overboost protection where if you can set the boost wherever you want, and then it will just release the boost through the blow off valve if you're pushing more than that.
Yeah, so, I mean, quick kind of simple explanation is, what this does is it monitors the PSI that your car is making, and like Onder says, you set the boost, and if it ever sees anything higher than the desired boost, it cuts the boost pressure and vents it to atmosphere. So if your wastegate fails, or you have a vacuum line routed wrong, or you have fueling issues and anything, and the car starts to overboost, instead of sending that boost into the engine and bending your rods and destroying your motor, you're not making any more boost, it vents it to atmosphere.
I actually had a problem where my wastegate springs were binding, and it was my basically wastegate wasn't operating.
You were making 30 psi.
30 psi with no fueling, and Guardian Angel saved my ass. I'll tell you that. I see the red light flashing, and then I'm like, ooh, that was more than what I was supposed to be making. But yeah, and this we just covered the basics of it. There's more intense. There are more other stuff that you can do to your car to help with the big turbo. There are other stuff that you can add to make more power, and it all depends on your setup. If you guys have any questions, and
drop them in the comments below.
Yeah, and then you guys can reach us through Facebook, Focus Garage, and we also have an Instagram that we daily post pictures of cars that we found around our town. And make sure to follow us there. And make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. We just
10,000 views and over 200 subscribers. So thank you everybody that's been with us so far.
Yeah.
We plan to keep pumping this content out. We really do enjoy making videos like this, kind of discussion about the Focus. Since we both do own these cars, it's a very easy topic for us to talk about. And we know these cars pretty well, without tooting our own horns there. So yeah, something in the future, like Onder said, you will see kind of an information video on different turbos and how to choose what's best for your setup. But yeah, until next time, we'll catch you in the next one. I'm Mike.
I'm Onder. Kudos to all.
You guys have a good one.